Yeah, what I want to talk to you guys about is how to learn how to draw complexity, and for this issue, I'm going to talk about how to be able to learn how to draw and make it more complex than it usually would be, to be honest with you. I think, honestly, what you want to do in a situation like this, getting straight to the point, is that what you want to do is you just simply want to focus as much as possible on the level of detail. Remember how the last time I said about using a ship and all of that sort of stuff? Try to think to yourself, for the ship, try to ask many questions. Remember how I said the men on the ship? Remember I said the forest? When you think of those sorts of things, try to think to yourself exactly how much detail it is. And for some regions, you might want to focus more on this. You might want to think to yourself, for example, for the Amazon, you know, right next to the Amazon, if it's in the picture that you're trying to draw, that it has more detail, which would make sense because Amazon might have more detail. One thing is for certain, if you'd ever try to pull this off, you would have to, of course, have a lot more information and all that sort of stuff to get it done more effectively. You'd have to have a lot of information on art and design, which I'm sure you could probably find a lot of interesting information off of. Besides, with how entertaining, like I said before in my previous video, we can make it. It shouldn't be that much difficult. And honestly, when it comes to writing a proper story, just ask more questions. Remember how I said a ship was fireproof? What kind of fireproof is it? Okay? Is it fireproof just to resist? Because there's many different kinds of fires in the world. To believe it or not, you have fires that are electrical. You have fires that are gas fueled. You have even some types of fires that can still be flaming on water. You have different kinds of fires that react in different sort of situations. Maybe you might want to think, I want to make a ship, depending on the exact situation, where it has all of the different components and all that sort of stuff that makes it more resistant to being fireproof. Just in general, it's warfare. You don't know if people might be thinking about it. So once you think, I guess maybe you could possibly say, once you think of the scenario, you think of a more interesting scenario as you progress, you could try to expand upon it. Remember I said about the men in the ship, what countries do they come from? Okay, do they come from Peru? Do they come from Chile? Do they come from Brazil? Because it's all in South America. Okay, and do they dress in different army gear? Like, these are just examples, to be honest with you. So for each individual detail, at least for most of them, and maybe even for the small different sections you think of, such as even a rotary gun, you might think to yourself, to be honest with you, what direction is it pointed? Is it pointed direction in the Amazon because you want to make sure, you think there's rebels in there? So honestly, for every single part of it, ask more questions about the detail to help you become better. And I'm telling you, man, especially if you focus on the design of the metallic objects and all that sort of stuff, asking more detail, like how can I make it look cooler? How can I make it look cooler? To be honest with you, like what I mean by that is that how can I make it look sicker? To be honest with you, what kind of how thick is it? At least try to replicate how thick it is. For the design, like let's just say it has a dragon on it, you might ask a question: what type of dragon is it? Okay, what type? What kind is it? Is it a Chinese dragon? Once you ask that question, which colors would be good on it? Is it supposed to intimidate the enemy? Is it supposed to help camouflage or something? Is it supposed to who knows, maybe it might be a method of maybe it glows in the dark or something. You might want to pick you might want to pick a color, you know, that's known for glowing in the dark, at least the best it possibly can, like maybe yellow or something, or at least partially yellow. All of those different ideas to help keep it going, you know. Just ask for each individual part of it, and for the storyline telling part, you know, you want to tell the story, and honestly, once you tell the story and you remember all of it, I guess you just simply just want to work on on asking questions, you know, for the most key important parts of it. You know, this is kind of complicated because there's many different parts to a ship, I'm sure of, but I think this is a possible way to help make your idea become better. And as it becomes better, for everything from design, it doesn't just have to be for a ship. It could be for every and anything. It can help improve your ideas, your ideas for everything, and especially if you're focusing on specifically a car, just a car specifically. I'm sure if you were to focus more specifically on the actual object instead of the scenario, you know, it would look a lot cooler than it usually would look. So honestly, when that's pretty much it, just simply focus on being as creative as possible, and when you focus on being as creative as possible, you can and trying to have fun and trying to come up with interesting scenarios for the different levels of detail about the people in Peru. You might pick country, you know, for all of the details, you might pick things that you're interested in, you know, such as, you know, like I said before about the gun being pointed at the rainforest. You might honestly think to yourself, maybe if it's pointed in a certain direction, it, you know, it might be based off of ballistics, and when you point in a certain direction, you're curious in your head how the different birds would come out and all that sort of stuff. Like, just like for everything, just focus on interest. So to pretty much sum up the video, focus on asking more questions for each level of detail and try to make each level of detail as interesting as possible, and that's all I have to say.